Hello, and welcome to Going Big, how the growing city of Durham scales services and stepped up bulky collection with digital communication tools. I'm Brittany Lafredo, an account executive here at Recollect, and today I am joined by one of our customers, Jim Reingruber, Assistant Director of Solid Waste for the City of Durham in North Carolina, who's been in the government space for almost 2 decades now, and the majority of that time spent in the great city of Durham. Personally, as a North Carolinian myself, I am so excited to have Jim in the City of Durham as our customer, more like our partners. Not only is Durham the 4th largest city in North Carolina, it is home to the famous Duke University and Durham Bulls baseball team. Momentarily, Jim will discuss how his city uses Recollect, but first, let's chat a little bit more about who we are. Recollect is part of Routeware, who has been in business over 20 years in 3 continents, has over 10,000 trucks on the streets using our technology. We just reached over 1 billion, that's right, billion notifications sent out to our customers and serving thousands and thousands of happy customers, all while bringing value, experience, trust, and a true partnership to our customers. Routeware can provide solutions in fleet management, workflow automation, route optimization, but the pillar we're focusing on today is our customer self-service tool, which is powered by Recollect. So, what is Recollect? Well, we are a digital communications platform for the waste and recycling industry that was designed for municipalities, haulers, universities, and educational platforms. Our main feature is our mobile app, which is completely white labeled and unique to our customers. We have several products that make up our app that are tailored to your specific needs and goals, including alerts and notifications that reach your audience instantly. Our goal at Recollect is for our end users to have a seamless digital user experience, all while educating and empowering your residents to help drive better communication and recycling behaviors. We support you in solving problems, whether it be reduced call volume and contamination or to increase your diversion rates, supported by analytics and metrics that show how you're moving the needle in your community. After all, we are what we measure, and our data supports that. At the end of the day, we are passionate about building a true partnership with our customers and their communities, and that is built around trust. We take pride in making sure our software platforms are user-friendly, seamless, and that your audience is getting the results they need each and every time. Think of us as your hammer, and a hammer by itself, well, it's just not that impactful, but a hammer and a nail, that's you, our customer, and then throw in some lumber, that's your residents and your community. Well, then we can build bridges, buildings, you name it, but we're building it together. See, I feel like trash can be really complicated. Recycling is complicated. With so many different streams, you have organics and e-waste and bulky items and garbage and composting. It can be confusing and overwhelming, especially when the laws and regulations are constantly changing. What we strive to do is help our customers and your community get it right, so there is no confusion on where to go when seeking the answers. And someone who has gotten it right is our guest speaker and our customer, Jim. Jim had a problem in Durham. He had minimal support staff, numerous scheduling changes, and no way to communicate that in real time. He was spending a ton of money on printed calendars with inefficient routes for bulky items, several phone calls with questions and confusion on all things recycling and scheduling, contamination issues, and so on and so on. For some of you on this webinar, this might sound very familiar to you. So what did he do? In 2017, Jim turned to Recollect in hopes to get it right. See, in this story, Jim is our nail. He has built his residents their bridges and buildings, while we were simply just his hammer. I am very excited for you to hear from Jim about his experiences in building up the City of Durham. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that introduction. And so just to kind of give some background about the City of Durham, with our solid waste department, we serve close to 80,000 households now. We keep growing, so the slide gets old pretty quickly now. We do weekly trash and subscription yard waste. We do recycling collections every other week. And like I mentioned, we are growing. It's slowed down a little bit recently. We're growing still at about 100 households every month, though, so still significant growth. So just to set some context with where we came from and where we are now, some of the issues that we had to deal with, going way back to the Great Recession in 2009. At that time, I was in the city's budget office, and the problems with that solid waste had at that time were not unique to solid waste. They were, citywide and countrywide issues. I think a lot of places went through the same thing. If a position was not essential, it got eliminated. If there were things that you were doing that weren't essential, they were cut. And that's what happened to us. So we lost some positions, we lost some code enforcement positions, but we also lost our education position at that time and haven't been able to get it back yet. So I had to think about other ways to deal with educating our residents, especially on issues like recycling, which are ever changing, but also just other things and our services and all that. So, the silver lining there is that we were basically forced to start exploring another way to do this. So we first started using Recollect in 2017, and we did this. This was a big leap for us. We started using their collection calendar and reminders. And where we had been before that, well before that, we were still sending out, I think Brittany mentioned this, we were still sending out paper calendars to people. And you can imagine how annoying that is, because you better get it right, because you're sending out something that people are going to use for the whole year. And if you made a mistake, that's a huge problem. At some point, we did go to website calendars, which previously, which replaced those paper ones. But even with website calendars, we couldn't be specific. So it was a very generic calendar that showed holidays and showed that, collection days were pushed back a day, but it wasn't specific to the residents. So as you can see, although the screenshot's kind of small, but you can see here that a resident can put in their address now, get their specific collection information. So this resident who is a Tuesday customer can see that they are going to be collected on Tuesday. This is the last week in August, and then the first week in September, which there's a Labor Day holiday. So you can see that the last week in August, they get collected on Tuesday like normal. And that's the recycling week as well. And then they can see that next week is Labor Day. So their garbage day gets pushed back to Wednesday. Again, like a big customer service improvement for us. People are able to go in and get their specific information and sign up for reminders, so that they get a text that, they'll get a text that Monday, the 29th, that says, put out your garbage and recycling the next day. And then they'll get a text on the 6th that says, put out your garbage the next day. And it just helps people stay on top of their schedule and set out their carts at the appropriate time. So just a couple of measures that we keep here. We look at our average monthly solid waste phone calls and households with collection reminders. So the phone call data is interesting, and you can ignore 2019. That was actually about half of the year's data was missing because of a phone switchover. So just kind of ignore that part. But if you look at the rest of the years, there's definitely a downward trend in the phone calls. And again, just we're with the growth that we're seeing every year, that's pretty remarkable that, this use of the digital tools is actually, we're getting fewer phone calls with more people in the city. So, that's a big reason why we decided to go with this, is it does help us, and it helps our Durham One Call system, which is our call agency for the city, have fewer residents that call them. People can self-serve a lot more, and we'll definitely talk about that more when we get to the bulky tools section. And then, this households with collection reminders just shows sort of the growth of the adoption of people signing up for the reminders. And you can see during the pandemic time, it really shot up. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where we were able to drive people to the digital tools to sign up for reminders and get alerts and all that. So very helpful. This just kind of shows the back end. We are, again, I've alluded to service alerts a couple of times, and this is a really handy tool for us because all of our data is segmented with Recollect down to the route. So if you're a customer and you're on a specific garbage route, let's say you're on Route 405, and on that Thursday, we're not able to finish your route for some reason. So you're kind of left wondering, oh, did they forget me? Do I have to call in a missed collection? So we're able to send out a service alert that says just to the customers on 405 and say, hey, we know we didn't finish your route today. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry about submitting a request. Again, it gives the customer information. It saves us from getting a phone call with usually an irritated customer. And we find that, the residents are, as long as you communicate with them, people are usually pretty reasonable. Of course, you have your outliers, but for the most part, people just want information. So this is what that provides. And another nice thing is we have a large-ish Spanish-speaking population, and people we're finding with that have other languages as their first language, and they're able to sign up for these alerts in their native language, and we're able to tailor that for people. So that's a really nice thing. Our city has put a lot of effort into building a language access plan and really putting muscle behind that. So the fact that Recollect already has that ability built in is big for us. So just to so I've talked about the collection calendar and reminders and service alerts. The next phase that we went with was implementing the mobile app in the Waste Wizard. And these are kind of combined on this slide just because we sort of implemented them together. But talking about the mobile app first. So first of all, it has a 4.9 rating on the App Store and Apple out of 5. So amazing. People love it. The adoption of it was kind of slow, but again, during the pandemic, when people were at home and didn't have stuff to do, and they wanted information on what we were doing, the adoption really exploded, and we found better ways to sort of market it too during that time. And the app now is the primary place where people, use use Recollect for solid waste information with the city. Okay, so moving on to the Waste Wizard portion. So this is where residents are able to search for very specific materials to find out how to dispose of it. And people primarily use this when they have questions about recycling. Although, there are other things that people search for as well, bulky items being one of them. There are a lot of searches for furniture and stuff like that. But people want to know what's recyclable and what's not. And we have some residents who like to get really granular with it. So this is nice for that. We are able to capture what people are searching for. People are able to suggest items that they can't find in there, and then we can research if necessary and add them to the list too, so that, the next time somebody searches for it, it's there. People love the app. People love the Waste Wizard. We get compliments on this all the time. You can see it's very well used, and we've been very happy with both of those. So just to kind of show what we see on the back end here, this shows the top materials that are searched in the Waste Wizard. And, interestingly, by a wide margin, beer bottle cap is, at the top. Not even close second is furniture. So that's an interesting kind of, testimony on what Durham's all about. But kind of leave that alone. We also have a curbside food waste pilot going on right now too. And the biggest question we get about that is pizza boxes. So we think pizza and beer are very popular in the city of Durham. But this is nice for us. You can see how this might be useful to see what people are searching for, so therefore what they might be confused about or not know. And so this could help tailor our education campaigns. We're able to get the look at what gives us the most bang for our buck when we're trying to talk about different materials and things. On the right there, that chart's a little bit busy, but it just sort of shows, again, I was talking about how the adoption of the app took a little time to get going, but now we're actually above our benchmark of where we want to be. So and starting to grow a little gap there between the benchmark and where we are. So that's great. So looking at so this is a nice little look at how the resident would see the Waste Wizard. They can, again, you go there and you just type in whatever material you're looking for. It'll bring up a list of options. You just click on what you want and it'll tell you how to dispose of it. So that on the left kind of shows the web application of it, and then on the right you see the mobile app, and it's based, you can do the same things on the mobile app that you can do on the web. So that's a really nice feature too of the app itself. So yeah, again with the mobile app, I flawless. I mean, you see that you see the ratings there, and you know when people don't rate it a 5, it's usually some complaint about our other service. It's not really anything to do with the app. So people, and I've not fielded one complaint about the app. So that's huge for us. So another piece of Recollect that we've implemented is this waste sorting game, and we started doing this in 2019. We started developing it then. It just happened to coincide with we were able to basically go live with it during the pandemic. So that was actually pretty good timing. People were home kind of looking for stuff to do. The kids were trying to do school from home, and so this kind of an online educational video game that people can play. It's customized to the City of Durham. So if you see the picture there, that's actually our skyline back there. We were able to submit that to their development team, and they make it look like Durham. So there's little components in the game too that are very Durham specific. You can win a Durham Bull at one of the levels. And one of the nice things for us is that, again, just like the Waste Wizard, this collects data. So it shows what people didn't get right when they were playing the game. And again, another opportunity to tailor education where it's needed. We have not used this to its full ability yet. I think with the pandemic and everything else and trying to just kind of stay afloat, we see lots of opportunities to promote this to schools and get people involved with it that way and get people interested and engaged with recycling and how to do it right. One thing that have found success with in the past is doing school events, and school kids are great because they remember this stuff and then they go home and correct their parents. And we hear it all the time that, my kids know more about recycling than I do. And they always, tell me I'm doing it wrong. So kids are good about that kind of stuff. We actually, when we took an agenda item to council one time, our mayor pulled it just to call out the game and say he played it and it was great and fun. So nice to hear that from an elected official. We've got great support within the city for this tool. So finally, and this is what I've been excited about this year, big change for us, this special collections tool. So just to kind of give some background on this, because I think it's helpful to set some context before I kind of talk about the tool itself. We do bulky item collection. We collect up to 3 items once per week for free for residents. They can schedule more, but it costs money if it's more than 3 items per week. And so we have a bulky team that goes around and does these collections. And before we implemented this tool, so going back pre-pandemic, the way it was supposed to work is that garbage drivers were on their route they had a little device where they called pinpoint, where they would mark a spot where they saw a bulky item that was out. So the idea was to take all those. They would bring their devices back to the office where it was all geocoded and everything, and a route would be prepared for the next day to have the bulky collectors go out and collect those items that were sitting out the next day. So it was nice from the standpoint that it didn't really require much of the resident. All they had to do was set their item out, theoretically, and it would disappear the day after their trash day. In practice, of course, you can imagine some of the issues that we had with that. It was difficult. So we would get a lot of miscollection calls because either A, the driver didn't see the item, or B, the resident might set it out after the trash driver has already passed. We had instances where a driver would mark something like a basketball goal, and we would go collect it and find out, oh, that was just set out there for the kids to play on, and we shouldn't have taken it. So then we end up having to replace that. Stuff like that just, there was no communication with the residents on this. It was all just sort of a kind of a guessing game with it. And again, so much possibility for human error in there with being able to correctly mark spots and knowing exactly what to collect. So it was challenging. And then, so we would get a lot of miscollection calls too. And so then the resident by this time is irritated because the system didn't work the way it was supposed to. And we're having to now go and do, a run to collect the one that should have been routed properly the first time. And it's really inefficient. And it got to the point where the system was so broken that the bulky drivers were basically every week just going and running the entire route and looking for stuff themselves. And again, not a foolproof plan for some of the same reasons I already mentioned, and so inefficient. I mean, if we had, we average around 100 to 120 pickups per day, or bulky pickups. So if you're talking about a route or, a set of routes with 18 to 20,000 stops on it per day, and you only have items at 120 of them, it's really inefficient just to go around and collect or just look for stuff and collect like that. So it was better from a customer service point of view, but from our point of view, still very, not a great system. So then the pandemic hits, and Churchill once said, never let a good opportunity or never let a good crisis go to waste, or something like that. I totally butchered it, but you get the idea. So we took that opportunity to make our bulky service a call in. You have to put in a service request and we will come and get your item. So that's a step up. Now we know where we have to collect from. The caller may or may not have gotten information on what is being collected. We also, so varying levels of information are coming in about this for us. The resident has some communication with us, at least to put in the initial request. But so here's an example of what might happen, though, and an issue that we had and didn't really even realize how big this issue was until we started using Recollect. But I'll illustrate this with an example. So if a resident puts a bulky item out on a Tuesday and called us up and said, hey, I've got a bulky item out, and we say, okay, great, we'll be there in 5 to 7 business days to get it. Sometimes we were able to go get it the next day. Sometimes it was 5 to 7 business. Sometimes it was longer. But so let's say this resident put in the request on Tuesday. Wednesday, they go to work and come home and their bulky item's gone. And they go, oh, great. Okay, the city came and got our bulky item. Well, the problem is that the neighbor came and got their bulky item, and, it's not a problem. It's great. We love that sort of reuse. But the neighbor came and picked up their washer and took it. And so our bulky driver, on Friday comes out and is ready to go and collect this and drives by and there's nothing out. So big wasted empty trip for us, wasted time, wasted gas, and just, again, inefficient, but, seamless for the residents. So that's good. We did. One of the other issues that wasn't good for the residents, though, is we're still not giving them good expectations on when it's going to be picked up. So like I said, it just varied on how busy, how many open requests there were. And and who was working and how busy they were and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so that's all the context before we decided to implement the special collection tool. So the thing that's very nice about the Recollect tool, there are several things that are very nice about it. Number one, the residents schedule their own collections online. And when I say schedule it, they pick the day that their items are going to get picked up. So that's great. That solves the problem of the residents' expectations being set. They know exactly what day it's going to be picked up and exactly what day it needs to be out there. They are also able to say that same person goes in and self-schedules a pickup on a Tuesday, and they schedule it for Friday. Great. They come home from work on Wednesday and their item's gone. They get a reminder on Thursday night that says, hey, we're coming to pick your item up tomorrow. If you need to cancel, let us know. They can cancel themselves right there and go, oh, my item's already gone. Cancel. We don't have to go do an empty trip there. It's taken off the schedule. Our driver doesn't have to go out there and see that there's nothing there. It also leaves open a slot for somebody else if they need it. So that's huge for us. Again, reduces administrative effort for us. It leaves time for us to do other things where the communication, for all the reasons I just talked about, the communications with the residents is just a huge part of this. And it just, again, residents feel good when you communicate with them and they have clear expectations of the services that you're going to be providing and how it's going to be done and when it's going to be done. It, again, allows data collection for us. And this is stuff we didn't have before. We're able to see when people go in and schedule this bulky item, they tell us exactly what they have, not only how many items, but what they are. So we're able to see, oh, okay, people are overwhelmingly disposing of chairs. I mean, great. So we know now that's a big thing for us. And we're able to set our own schedules too. So we keep 120 slots open per day for bulky pickups. But let's say one of the bulky drivers is going to be on vacation next week. We can cut the available slots to 90 each day. So it helps the supervisors care for their crews and make sure that, nobody's getting overworked and the workload's reasonable. And again, helps us being able to, serve customers when we say we're going to serve them and how we say that we're going to serve them. And they're not left wondering, well, why didn't my item get picked up today? We still have some misunderstandings and things like that, but there's so few and far between now that it's just made a huge difference with our customer service. We've gotten a lot of compliments on the new tool as well. So for us, it's just been a monumental leap in customer service and for our own efficiency. So here's a look at what the customer sees when they would put in their address. So in this case, you see their address up there. It's Hope Valley Road. Once they pull up their address, they just pick whatever items they have. And this is a very small subset of all of them that are available. So there's different categories: furniture, appliances, etc. And there's also a category down there for prohibited items, so that customers don't always read, but when they do, they can see that, okay, they don't take glass, so I can't put glass out there, or they don't take cardboard boxes through this, so I shouldn't put cardboard out. It's nice for us, again, to be able to have that information for the resident to be able to see that and self-serve and not have to call us and ask. Once they select the items that they want picked up, that piece on the right, they just pick a date, and after that, they just put in their contact information and we come get the item. So again, very seamless, self-service, big difference for us and the customer. Just to kind of show a couple of, so the metric on the left there is built into Recollect, and there's a lot of different metrics you can get straight from Recollect. In fact, all the other charts that you saw previously and that you see on the right there, I go into Recollect to pull that information and put it in our performance management system that the city uses. So able to just pull everything that I need directly from Recollect, which is nice. But it shows our bulky appointments there online. And like I said, we do about 120 per day, 100 to 120 per day. It's a little slower in the winter than it is in the spring and summer when people are doing cleanups and stuff like that. But I really want to draw your attention to the chart on the right, because this just shows what I explained with sort of the background of our bulky program and how we used to run it. So you see on the left-hand side there, back a few years ago, our missed collections were ridiculous. I mean, we're talking about, roughly 10% of our customers getting their bulky items missed. And that's just horrendous for, that's terrible customer service. So you can see the progression there over the time. When we mid-year through FY20 is when we implemented the call-in system. So you see that FY20 is a little better than the previous year. And then FY21 is when things were fully, call in, and we're seeing a lot fewer missed collections. And then so partway through April of FY22 is when we started using the Recollect system. And so it even went down further, and we're expecting it to continue to go down. We're seeing our missed collections right now at the lowest levels we've ever seen them on a monthly basis. So, and it's usually, we're finding a lot of it are the residents' fault. They'll even call us and say, "Oh, I forgot you were, coming today," or whatever, even though they get a reminder and all that. Or they, don't follow directions and they set it out against their mailbox or something like that, and we have to go back and get it later. But for the most part, that chart, picture tells 1,000 words there. So, and so this is a big kind of change from what we were just talking about here. But I think it's important to sort of talk about how data is managed, because this was a big part of what we had to really think through when we were implementing all these digital tools. And you don't want to be in a position where you've got multiple kind of systems of record and you're updating things in multiple places just to make sure that everything's up to date. So just to kind of show how we ended up structuring how we manage our data, at the top of the chain there, you see Esri GIS. So this is kind of our central database of where we manage all of our solid waste information. This has all of our addresses in there that we serve, what route they're on, what days they're served, etc. And so that's where everything is centrally updated. And there's a few places that Esri feeds directly on the Recollect side. So the Esri information feeds directly into an open data set that the city manages. There's a solid waste specific open data set, and it's nice now. Recollect there is it's integrated with the open data set. So every day Recollect automatically goes out to pull from the open data, see if there's anything new, and if there is, it gets pulled into Recollect. I don't have to touch it. It's all just set up to work automatically. So it's nice. We have a person who just updates the information in Esri GIS, and in a couple of days it's trickled down into Recollect and everything is updated now. We also did an integration with CityWorks, which is our service request system that the city uses. And this was really important for us because CityWorks is our system of record when it comes to service requests. So we weren't going to be able to just use Recollect for the bulky item piece. It needed to be captured in CityWorks as well. So it's a really slick integration. The resident, the way that I showed a couple slides ago, the resident goes in and self-serves to select their bulky item collection date. Once they hit submit, it's in Recollect, and then Recollect communicates directly with CityWorks to create a request in CityWorks, populates it with all the relevant information. CityWorks even sends a service request number back into the Recollect data so that there's a nice, easy way to sort of compare the data and interface there. CityWorks is where we actually pull our routing data from. Recollect has routing capabilities, but we've got a different routing system. So we haven't crossed that bridge or anything yet. But if places are starting from scratch and you don't already have a routing system in place, Recollect is part of Routeware, so they can do that too. But yeah, just have to be mindful about the way that you manage your data and really think through the implementation before you get started. So just going through a few challenges and lessons learned through this whole thing, we found out, and I'm sure everybody who works with the public has some of the same issues, but people don't read. So I don't, that if you go into the residents interface with how they schedule a bulky item collection, you see information there that says, up to 3 items are free. Well, people will put 10 items in there and not think that they have to pay for it. Or, it's very clearly like, don't lean stuff against your fence or your mailbox or behind a parked car. Like our truck has to, be able to reach it and pick it up with the arm. But people still do all kinds of crazy stuff with the way they set out. So you can put all the information out there, but if people don't read, there's still going to be issues. But that's okay. We just deal with those one-on-one, and hopefully over time people get educated enough that those aren't, continuing issues. Another thing is we found even good change is challenging. So people don't like change, and that includes our own customer service people. So down at in the bottom middle of this slide here, you see a sort of a progression. This was our Durham One Call group, and sort of the progression of what happened as we implemented this tool. So day one, we went live, and communicating with them, and I get an email back that says, as we didn't get much notice about this and didn't have time to train, and we don't know what to do. So it's like, okay, calm down. It's fine. We're going to work through this. It's, you're doing fine. It's going to be okay. The end of the first week, they're like, okay, sort of getting used to it. It's a little bit of an adjustment, but we're starting to get used to it. And by the end of the month, it's like, man, why didn't we do this before? This is great. And I swear, we meet with Durham One Call once a month now. And every time we meet now, it's like, this bulky thing is the greatest thing. That I wish other departments would do stuff like this. This is taking so much call volume off of us. And they're so excited to show us the data now of how this has really changed their workload. So it is funny, don't be discouraged by sort of the first blush of feedback that you get, because change is hard, and just people aren't going to be automatically ready and excited, even if it's a good thing. And we did launch. You're never fully prepared, so at some point you just got to do it and work through the issues, and make sure you have time to deal with the challenges. Recollect's got a really good support team too that we wore out for a little bit there, but they're very responsive and good. Every problem became not a problem. So really they really want to make sure that everything works and works well, and you're satisfied. And, I think the last lesson is just be flexible. It's important to be flexible and be able to change if something's not working. Don't be too wedded to your processes if there's a better way. So a lot of benefits. I think I've kind of covered these already, but just to sort of sum up and reiterate, we don't have the staff to be able to give the sort of attention that we want to with communication and education. So this really helps us with that. It increases our capacity to deal with the public, with education, with just basic communication, and it's been really great for that. So without having to add the FTEs to do that. We still would like FTEs to help with this too. We think the more the better, but this has really helped bridge us through and made it from really poor customer service to pretty good customer service at this point. It's again helped us reduce administrative tasks internally And again, they've been great about integrating with our systems and making sure that what we have works. And externally, again, sort of talked about this stuff already too, but communicating with residents, that's the big thing. So giving them information the way they want it today. And that's a lot of people, it's electronic. We still have people that call, and that's fine too. We have a process where people can call Durham One Call, and Durham One Call will go to that Recollect interface and put in the bulky item request for the resident. No problem. Like, that's super easy. But a lot of people want to self-serve. They don't want to call anybody. They just want to get on the computer and get their business done and move on. And it helps us engage with the public better. Public engagement's the big thing these days, and making sure it's a two-way communication street for us. So that's nice. And it's not to be repetitive, but self-service options for residents. It helps us, it helps them. That's all I have today.
All righty. Wow, Jim, thank you so much. This was amazing. And I love seeing the progress, right? Your history with Recollect and what you're able to do to and for your community, and nonetheless, your residents getting so much out of it. So I hope everyone found this extremely beneficial and they learned something new. And again, we're always welcome to, answer any questions. And we look forward to hearing from you. But thank you, Jim, so much for your time and your business and our partnership.
Happy. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Jim.